When you were growing up, how many times did they say to you, "But we've always done it this way"? How many times has a long-suffering liturgist had a parishioner complain, "But we've always done it this way"? The tradition of the elders was and is a powerful thing. In the First Nations version of the New Testament, an indigenous translation, we hear it this way: the teachings of Creator sets free, Jesus, were becoming a great concern to the spiritual leaders in Village of Peace, Jerusalem. So messengers were sent to accuse him and make him look bad in the eyes of the people. And Jesus answered, "How is it that you use your traditions to ignore the instructions given by the Great Spirit?" The messengers, of course, are the Pharisees. This is only one example of the conflict between Jesus and the religious authorities. The question of hand washing, which no longer seems trivial to us in the post-COVID world in which we live, was symbolic to the Pharisees of holiness. It was not prescribed in the Torah, and in fact was a custom only prescribed for priests, but they saw it as a practice to develop one's holiness. For us, what is the conflict here? A conflict between the way we've always done it and what so many of us experience through Jesus' teaching as the freedom of the children of God. Over the centuries, tradition developed alongside the Torah, and those traditions came to be considered as just as sacred as the scripture. But they were not, and are not now. In the Catholic tradition, devotions developed which came to be considered as sacred as the scripture, but they were not, and are not now. Yet there is sadness among those attached to those devotions, which they see as the tradition of the elders. The most obvious and glaring example is the persistent adherence of the Society of St. Pius X to the old ways of the pre-Vatican II Church, which they see as the tradition of the elders, with a sanctity of its own. We need to ask ourselves how to respect tradition and grow in freedom and love. Isn't there a need for tradition to adapt to new and current cultures? Recently, I was present at the vow ceremony of a young friend from Cameroon. She's in her early 30s, was only married for 2 years, and now a widow. She has chosen a new way of life as a consecrated widow. She belongs to a lay community where all live independently, but make the traditional promises of chastity and simplicity of life. It is the tradition alive in today's culture. These women are much like the Beguine women of medieval Europe, who lived in neighboring houses, earned their living by needlework, and prayed together. Because they were holy women, people favored their craft, and they incurred the opposition of the male guilds and the church, the Pharisees of their time. Over the centuries, women and men have creatively lived the tradition along with the freedom and love taught by the one our First Nations brethren call Creator Sets Free. How is Jesus calling each of us, individually and as a community, to do that today in our culture, our church, our world?